Hey, yo, what's going on, y'all? So, I just had a very great and interesting conversation with a Indian individual. And I picked him up, I'm doing rides here, side hustles, you got to have your side hustles. So, I picked him up and we were talking. I said, hey, you ordered um the share version. So it was an East Indian man, and I asked him. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm just coming from a conference," and I've noticed that out here where I'm at, there has been a lot of East Indians, and I mean a lot. A lot of them, and they have been, all it's been a lot of them. It's been a lot of them out here. And so I asked him, I said, no, I already kind of knew what it was, but he said, yeah, we're having a Amazon. Amazon is having a conference out here, a convention. It's like a 3 or 4 day convention for Amazon. And all they're talking about is AI. AI. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that was the case because I've seen a lot of East Indians, and I know that they dominate the tech industry. They dominate the people that work at these tech companies. And he was like, yeah, we are large, and I'm like, so the it got into me learning something that maybe offered me a different perspective on things. And though me and him had some disagreements, but I was able to get a different perspective on why things are the way they are, and particularly why they dominate the tech industry and why they dominate the STEM fields. And I always thought, I was like, yeah, I know that they study software engineering back home. I know they do that. We know that they focus on those back in India. They focus on that subject, technology, software engineering. And they study back home, and they get their advanced education back home, and they learn their coding back home and get their advanced degrees back home, so that when they're brought here on H1B1 visas, they already are coding masters. They already are top software engineers, and they'll come here on the H1B1 visa sponsored by these big tech corporations, and then they'll just further the company will pay to further their education so they can get degrees, advanced degrees here in the United States at the top universities. So it's basically sponsored by these tech companies, so they can go to the best Stanford and MIT, and they're sponsored by the company to get these advanced degrees. So he basically explained why, I was like, so why do basically, why is it that the US and these corporations are importing so much talent, in particular in the tech industry, from India and in Asian countries? And why is it that the US can't pull from its own talent pool of American citizens? And I know the reason why. I understand. We're just not producing people that want to focus on STEM. We just haven't been producing that. We have people that want to focus on the liberal arts, underwater basket weaving, majoring in communication and psychology and things like that. And so since we have since we have this culture where we just tell our children, just go to school and do whatever you're passionate about. Do whatever you're passionate about. It doesn't matter. Just do whatever you're passionate about. They don't have that culture. So back in their country, they're told, hey, the U.S. needs us. They need people in tech because they are not producing that. They're not producing that in their own country. So we need to go ahead and get on this. We need to study. We need to get on this, because if we do, we're going to get all the tech jobs. They're going to import us to do that tech work. So that's what they're telling their people back in India. And he was saying too, also, that back in India, in the universities, they make it, his perspective was, they make it more easier for the Indian people to study these advanced areas and get these advanced degrees. They make it more easier. They make it more affordable. You know, it's less barriers, so that they make university education more accessible, more easier, more affordable for the Indian people. So this is why there are so many of them that are able to learn everything, you know, they need to know in software engineering and coding back home, get advanced in their studies and be already engineers and coders back home, and come here and get recruited here, because according to him, it's easier, made by the government in his country, for you to get a university education. And he said, because here in the United States, everything is about capitalism, everything is about profit, everything is about profit over everything. Education is often not available to a larger mass of the population like it is there. It's not available. It's, you know, it's often restrictive to people, to majority of the people, because they don't want to take on expensive college loans and debt. They don't want to, you know, or they don't have the money to get in the top MIT. They don't have the resources or the connections. So he was saying here, the policies, the way things are, the way things here, they make it so hard because of capitalism, that it makes it hard and difficult for people to go to these universities here, and for us to produce a large population of people who are ready to go into STEM, as opposed to there. And what he was saying is that maybe policies need to be changed here. But he was saying, as long as it continues that way, as long as it continues that way, profit is always going to be the motive for these corporations. So if they have a large pool of skilled labor in India, and it's cheaper, and it's cheap, and it's readily available as it is, then the profit motive is going to cause them, these major corporations, these tech companies, to draw from that area, to draw from that well, because it's available talent there. Because according to him, the government of India has made it easy for them to get the education, to get the skills, to be ready to be these software engineers that get imported here to the United States to work in these major corporations in Silicon Valley. So this is another reason why, you know, and I also went into it, you know, how these corporations do discriminate too. And he kind of tried to play that part off. But I said, hey, well, what about these articles and these new articles where we hear about black people who have the skills, who have the talent, who have the education, but they're being denied access to Silicon Valley? And he kind of brushed it off. He didn't really have an explanation for that. It's just more of the reason. It's more of the reason why, it gets back to my point of why, I feel like things are looking very bleak for us, because it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. I mean, this conference out here in Las Vegas, for Amazon, he said it was all about AI. Over 60,000 people, he said, were at the conference for it's been 2 or 3 days, and all they talked about was AI, replacing people with artificial intelligence. And we are nowhere in that picture, Black Americans, because when it gets to that point, they're already controlling that industry, and they're only going to look out for their own selves. So it's like, what are we really going to do when it gets to the point where we're starting to be replaced by AI? When AI starts to do a lot of the jobs, and even higher skilled jobs that we thought, we were always going to have, when it starts to be replaced by AI, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? In my opinion, I think everything is going to go back to the land. Everything, we're taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, by Honorable Minister Farrakhan, that everything goes back to the land. That regardless of all this technology, people will need to eat. If you can't eat, you're not going to live. And so I think everything goes back to the land. We need to figure out how to get possession of this land, so that even when this tech comes in, this AI comes in and replaces us, yeah, we may not have access to those tech jobs, but we still going to be able to thrive. I mean, we might have to go back in time, because everything comes from the land. Everything goes back to the land. If we have fertile land, if we have access to clean water, that solves 95% of the problem, because we have a way to feed ourselves, and we have a way to hydrate ourselves. But right now, us being 1,000% dependent on others for our substances, we are in trouble, because these groups are not operating to look out for us. They're looking to replace us with AI and other groups. And this is the difference with the Latinos. They know how to get out there in that field and grow and pick those tomatoes and cultivate the land. They still have that knowledge and skill. We have lost it. There's some of it, yeah, we have black farmers and we have black farms, but in totality, we have lost that knowledge and we have lost that skill, because we said, forget the farm, we trying to integrate. Forget tolling the land and doing all this we trying to integrate. Forget all that. So that conversation just let me see that, things are looking bleak. And it is what it is, man. It is what it is.